So in other communities, of course, it's done a little bit differently. In Ken's community in Cincinnati, he's going to talk to us about how they really bring in the financial neutral and the whole team early on and get them started. Eric, can we see the interview?
Ken, I understand that in Cincinnati they do what's called a financial first approach. Tell me what that's all about.
Yeah, so it's a process that I don't know if it's new to Cincinnati or not, but it's a process that myself and a number of the attorneys in Cincinnati have been advocating and executing on over the last couple of years. And I think historically, there's been a tendency to bring in the financial neutral on an as needed or if needed basis. And when I first began doing cases, I found that was a very challenging way to enter a case. The financials might already be in disarray. When we did that, there was oftentimes already an existing level of a lack of understanding among the parties, among the attorneys. And so we had some conversations and said, what if we just clarify these finances right out of the gate, so that we don't find ourselves behind the curve as we're trying to develop options and bring peace to this family. And so we started doing that. And so the protocol that we're following at the moment is that the financial neutral is brought onto the team right at the outset. I'm usually involved in the conversations between all of the professionals as the case begins to get underway. I'm usually involved in the first meeting where we're reviewing the participation agreement. And then by the time we have our second full team meeting, the financial neutral has already gathered all of the information, developed full financial statements, full clarification of income sources and what's what, so that as we begin to talk about the case and determine what are the issues that need to be addressed, what are the things that we need to explore and the options that we need to look at to bring peace and find an agreement, we know what the finances are. And everybody can proceed with those conversations and exploration of options with confidence that we're all on the same playbook, instead of coming from different places. So that's the approach that we've been using. It's been really successful, and there's sometimes some resistance from the clients right up front of having another professional involved right out of the gate. So we have to do some discussions about how this brings efficiency to the process. But it's been a really successful approach for our families.
So you're actually working before the first team meeting. Is that correct?
So quite frankly, I'm working hard before the first full team meeting,
right,
as is the client. And here's something I really like about this approach, Ed. Keep in mind that the clients are at their peak level of momentum right at the beginning of the case. There's a lot of inertia on the client's part to get this started and to get this done. And so I find that clients are much more responsive to getting the documentation that we need at the beginning. That wanes over time. People get tired, the process gets long, and it gets really hard to continue that data gathering. When we can knock that out right at the outset, I find that we're much more successful in getting all of the information that we need early on in the case.
Yeah, this type of process you're describing is really similar to many of the streamlined processes. I certainly use this in my cases. And what I find is it really sets the whole team up better. When I can walk into a first team meeting that sounds like you're doing the same thing, and provide them with a asset and liability schedule from the get-go, and we can already be talking about what are the assets, what work are we going to have to do. Right. I find it moves the process along. In fact, I've even had first team meetings postponed because there wasn't enough financial information gathered yet.
Absolutely.
Do you find the same thing?
Yeah, we haven't had that happen yet. But there are cases where I've wished it would happen because I was working so hard to get it ready in time, right? So yes, I agree. I think that first team meeting is radically more productive and helpful when we have that playbook ready and open.
Do you find it also brings down the anxiety level a little bit for the parties when you're kind of ahead of the game?
So it brings down the anxiety level for what, I don't know what the proper term is. I refer to it as the non-moneyed spouse. So whoever in the relationship isn't the financial manager of the household. It's rare that a couple is equal in that regard. And so it really brings down the anxiety level for the person that feels left out on the finances, because they're coming in at the start of the case feeling like they're at least up to speed, and they have a neutral that is not advocating for them personally, but advocating for their education and their awareness of everything about the finances. So yes.
Great. Ken, thank you very much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure, Ed, and good to see you as always.
So thanks to Ken. Kathleen, I know that you practice a lot that way too. What do you see as the advantages to moving more towards that team approach and away from what Don has described is happening in his community? I know that's happening in many communities.
Yeah.